we've been trying to do MLB Draft segments every week, and we're going to look to continue that straight up through All-Star Weekend when this year's MLB Draft will be held. It's good to catch up with our next guest. I know he was a little under the weather recently. Glad he's feeling a bit better. He is our friend Jonathan Mayo from MLB.com, MLB Pipeline, MLB Network. He's back with us on GCR. Jonathan, it's Glenn and Paul. Great to catch up with you, bud. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
I'm glad to be healthy enough to do it.
Yeah, right, man. I'm glad. I was a little nervous there for a second. I hope you're feeling all right?
I'm doing okay. COVID is no joke.
All right, take it seriously, and I appreciate that, man. I'm glad to hear that. Jonathan, let's get this out of the way first. Are you in consensus with everyone at this point that Druw Jones has separated himself as the singular best prospect in this draft?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely our number one. I think there may be some other folks who do what I do who feel that the separation is larger than I do. I think there's less risk than, say, with Elijah Green. Because there's some swing and miss concerns with Elijah Green, but he has answered a lot of those questions this spring.
Okay.
So I don't know. You can make the argument that Elijah Green has a higher ceiling, by a little bit, because the tools are so loud. But Druw Jones is a better bet to reach his considerably high ceiling.
What are the like when we talk about Druw Jones as a prospect, are we using words like can't miss? Are we comparing? Obviously, there's the immediate comparison that everyone makes to his father, but what is Druw Jones as a prospect?
I've been doing this too long to ever use the word can't miss with a draft prospect.
I hear you.
I mean he's super young, but and I'm not a huge fan of comps. He obviously can do a lot of the things that his father did. He's a plus runner. He can really play center field. If you really wanted to, he could play shortstop. He's really, really athletic and a really good baseball player. And that's the combination, is that, sort of nature and nurture, at the same time, because, he's got a big league dad. There's the genes there that certainly help with athleticism, but his feel for the game is so high. And I think, what he's going to end up being might depend on how much he fills out that 6'4" frame. And the belief is he's going to quite a bit. There's going to be plus power. So he can he's got all five tools. He could end up having plus tools across the board when all is said and done.
So with that said, when we saw your mock draft a couple of weeks ago, you did not have the Orioles taking Druw Jones, the number one pick. And I get it. The Orioles, what they've done, they've taken college bats. Let me phrase this question a couple of ways. All right, I'll start with this. Is Druw Jones so good that the Orioles should reconsider what their philosophy has been of just taking high bats since Mike Elias arrived, or college bats? Sorry.
Well, the thing is that I think that it can be a little bit of an oversimplification. Yes, they've done that the last couple of drafts. 3 drafts ago, they took a college bat, but he also was the best player in the class,
right?
Adley Rutschman. So, and that was the last time they took 1-1. So I think it remains to be seen what the philosophy is. If it were me, yes, I would take the best player, and Druw Jones is the best player. So that's, who I would take. When you're doing mock drafts, not to give you too much of a peek behind the curtain, but this far out, you're kind of just putting out different scenarios. I'm actually working on a new one this week, and last week Jim Callis had Jones going 1-1, and that certainly could happen. I'm going to have a different name there. I'm not going to tell you who. You're going to have to wait and look.
Okay.
But it's one of the players who's at the top of the list, and just to mix it up and reflect some buzz of something that could conceivably happen. But the one benefit that the Orioles have is that there are a number of really talented high school bats at the very top that you could potentially take one and also save a little money. I think people forget that by and large, the number one pick does not sign for that full pick value. So you're going to save some money that you can use and spread around a little bit more, especially if you have extra picks.
All right, we're talking MLB Draft with Jonathan Mayo here on Glenn Clark Radio. So let me cover a couple of things. Let's work backwards. It's not going to be the same guy, but if the Orioles do stay the college bat route, is your belief that Brooks Lee, kind of neat. It's a kid who's literally named after Brooks Robinson, so there's something interesting about that here. Is he definitely the top college bat in this draft?
Oh, without question, he's the best, for me, the best college bat. I think the only small question is, he had a fairly gruesome injury at the beginning of his college career.
Okay.
He seems completely fine. And, those questions would have to be answered. Whether or not that would make a team back off from taking him 1-1, I don't know. I think the only other college bat who's kind of crept into the conversation at all is Kevin Parada, the catcher from Georgia Tech. And I don't see the Orioles doing that. Although he's athletic, you could, if you like to bat enough, you could move him to left field, right? But I don't think you do that at 1-1. Then again, the Orioles have done some things the last couple of years that you didn't know that they were going to do. So Mike Elias keeps things very close to the vest. So we're going to have to wait and see. But those are the only two college bats that I think could conceivably come up in conversation for that top pick.
Is Brooks Lee a shortstop at the major league level?
I don't think so. I think you could send him out. In today's game, I shouldn't say that. He's got really, really good instincts. He's the son of the coach. He's incredibly smart. I think if I were a team, I'd let him play short. I'd have him get time at third or second. I think he could be a Gold Glove caliber player at either of those positions. The arm certainly works for third, and he's going to hit enough wherever you put him. So some of it may depend on the other personnel in the organization. If there's a better shortstop, then I think he probably moves over. But could he play there? Yeah. He won't have huge range, especially, he'll continue to fill out some as he physically matures. But he makes all the plays he's supposed to. When he gets to it, he makes the play.
He is Jonathan Mayo, MLBpipeline.com. He's with us here on GCR. Jonathan, you referenced saving money. Is that worth doing in this draft? Is this a particular draft where there is added value? I know there's always someone you can spend that money on, but is there a particular amount of value as you move ahead in this draft that it's worth saving the money at the top?
And I think the risk is, and the Orioles have seen it firsthand, is that you have this plan, and you want to get a guy down to your next pick, and someone else takes him.
Yep.
So I think that's the danger any team runs, and the Orioles have seen that happen. So I think you need to have kind of multiple contingencies. I think there are some interesting high school arms, and those are the ones that tend to kind of float down. There also might be some interesting value picks with some injured college pitchers. Those wouldn't be the guys you necessarily have to go way over slot for, but if you take them in the second round, you might. So I think if you can have a plan A, B, and C, then you could make the argument that it's worth doing. You look at last year, and the difference between last year and this year is that last year there was not an obvious slam dunk number one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, Henry Davis was very much in the conversation as the best player. And the Pirates really ended up liking him a lot. And they were able to do that and save a lot of money. And then they were able to pick up 3 high-end guys after that. I don't know that they knew that they were going to be able to do that. So they were ready and prepared to kind of adjust on the fly. You go back to the Astros in 2012. Correa was their top player on their board. So they got who they thought was the best guy and saved money. Right? So, there's the possibility of doing that with maybe some of the other high school bats if they decide, like, well, all things being equal, we can save money. I don't know that this is a deep enough class that you can be sure that the guys that you think are going to be there with those next picks are going to be there, especially with all the question marks around college pitching. it remains to be seen. Maybe some of those high school pitchers go a little sooner than typical because there aren't enough of the more advanced arms to choose from.
It's interesting. Where does Kumar Rocker? I know you referenced this. There's this great unknown, and he's going to go pitch for this independent league team. And how does he factor into this draft?
I wish I had an answer for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think two things are going to happen, or I think are going to happen. He's going to have to go out and show that he can kick the ball every whatever it is that they schedule him to do every 5-6 days, whatever it is. I think he's pitching June 4th for the first time, and they hopefully they'll stretch him out, so it's not just 2-3 innings the entire month-ish that he's going to pitch before the draft. But the other thing is there's going to have to be some sharing of medical information, because there are plenty of teams who are willing to take a risk if a medical report doesn't look perfect. But no one knows what the medical reports look like, except for the fact that the Mets were so concerned they offered him $0.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you're a team and that doesn't set off alarms, then you're in the wrong business. So I think there's going to have to be some sharing, because I think there are plenty of teams that if they look at it and say, the reports were, I don't know what the medical said, I haven't seen it, but the reports were that the Mets saw some trouble with the elbow and the shoulder, right? Sometimes it's sort of in the eye of the beholder who's interpreting the reports and the information. If a team looks at his medical and only sees maybe an issue with the elbow, there are plenty of teams who have no problem taking a guy who might need Tommy John surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, they'll take guys who have had Tommy John surgery or are about to have Tommy John surgery. I think it's the addition of the shoulder. Like, there are questions that need to be answered with that. So I think it's a two-pronged thing where if he goes out and shows that he still has the plus fastball and the wipeout slider and the stuff holds up, that's going to help. But it's going to be a controlled situation. But that combined with some comfort level with his medical report could help him float up to maybe as high as the middle of the first round, especially, again, with the dearth of college pitching that I mentioned.
All right. Anything else that should be on, as far as 1-1 is concerned, is there anything else that should be on our radar, Jonathan, as we get closer?
I should just throw out a red herring.
Yeah, right.
They're going to take Robbie Snelling.
Yeah, sure.
His name is Rising. That's why his name is not all the way that high.
Right.
No, I mean, I think, if you look at most rankings on most sites, the names that are at the top of the board, we have 4 high school guys at the top of the board, and then Brooks Lee. And I think those are the 5 names. I've gotten some sense that the Orioles have whittled it down to 5. I just don't know if they've removed one of the high school guys and added, say, Kevin Parada as a college bat.
Okay.
But so those are, I think that's the pool of 6 names. And I still think that it could be any of those 6. I would be very surprised if it, say, ended up being Termarr Johnson, who I think is going to be a very, very special hitter. But you have to have a certain amount of intestinal fortitude to take a 5'8" future second baseman at 1-1. Now, he's going to really, really hit, but, you're selling it to ownership and things like that. I think you'd have to be really, really sure. So I am a huge Termarr Johnson fan. I live here in Pittsburgh. I would love to see him go forward to the Pirates. I think he's going to be a really good player. But that high is going to be tough. So then you're talking Druw Jones, Elijah Green, Jackson Holiday, that's Matt's kid,
right,
and Brooks Lee.
By the way, it's unbelievable. I know, we're talking about Andrew Jones' kid, but Matt Holiday, it's just these are things are really messing with me, Jonathan. They're really messing with me.
This is the how to feel as old as possible.
100%. And before I let you go, are you as frustrated as everybody else is here waiting around for Adley Rutschman to make his major league debut?
Patience. There is
patience.
No rush.
Patience. Patience. There's no rush. You watch Anthony Benboom play every night and tell me patience.
You know what? So here's the thing. And I don't know where that Super 2 line is anymore. I have no idea. But if I'm the Orioles, if he had been healthy, I think he makes the team on opening day. But there's no harm in giving him some extra reps in AAA let him hit the ground running. Heck, call him and Grayson Rodriguez up together to create even more buzz. The Orioles, it's not like the Orioles are competing for a playoff spot.
I know.
So there's really zero reason to call him up just because people are clamoring for him. Sorry to rain on your parade.
Well, I think it's to me it's less that they're clamoring for him and more that he's just ready. Like, what is the point any longer? You know,
an
like
extra year of service.
But wouldn't we have been past that a couple of weeks ago at this point?
I think it's somewhere around this last part of May for the Super 2 for the arbitration status.
All right.
And again, like, I don't think the Orioles would have been concerned with that had he been healthy.
Right, because
right? So it's just because it's like, well, at this point, why would you not wait an extra week just to
Well, I mean, if that's the case, I thought it was earlier than that. That's all.
I mean, it's it's kind of a moving target and no one really knows. So it's like it's a weird thing, but I think most teams have a sense of when it is, and to me that's the only explanation as to why that hasn't happened. Either that or they want Grayson to make one more start and they're going to call him up together.
All right. Hey, Jonathan, what should I be plugging for you? What are people going to be seeing? MLB Pipeline, MLB.com, MLB Network?
I've got a new mock draft which will be up probably tonight into tomorrow, so people can check that out. It's 2 months out, so I don't want people to freak out by anything. It's sort of just playing out different scenarios at this point, and Jim Callis and I will switch off every week. So there will be a new mock draft every week, and as we get closer, we try to get closer to what's actually going to happen.
At Jonathan Mayo on Twitter is how you follow him. Glad you're feeling better, my friend. Let's talk again as we get closer to the draft. Thank you, as always, for taking the time for us.
Thanks for having me. Good to talk to you guys.